ITRBoxing. You heard it here first. Pretty cool videos. And I heard they're also in HD. ITRboxing.com.
How goes it, my good friends? I hope I'm in focus for this one. I've been having a little bit of focus difficulties. I shoot these by myself, but I'm of the belief that maybe you guys just want to hear my voice and you can surf the web or something. And if I'm in or out of focus, it's whatever. But I got the balls to be in front of the camera as opposed to hide behind a screen. So that's why I really do the recording aspect of this. Okay, so let me know in the comments if you don't like that stuff. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Andy Ruiz is a terrific fighter. Now, Andy Ruiz, throughout his career, has had these ups and downs. So, Andy Ruiz was a guy who had an amateur record of something like 105-5. He's one of these real special amateur boxers where if he was lined up in your bracket and you're going through Monday and Tuesday and Thursday and you get to Friday and the weekend and you're getting close to the finals, you go, oh man, I'm in the bracket with Andy Ruiz. I'm fighting the really good guy. I'm fighting the guy that doesn't ever lose a lot. I'm fighting the open division guy. The guy that has talent, and he's the anomaly for the heavyweight division in the sense that he actually has boxing skills and he actually trained as a boxer as opposed to being a pure athlete of another sport who failed and came into boxing and had to learn some basic fundamentals to go along with his athleticism. Andy Ruiz is a boxer, very rare in modern day heavyweight boxing. So, why is his career confusing? Well, if you first look at him, it's basically his aesthetics. He, to the average person, looks like a fat guy. He's never been a body guy. If he goes to the gym and takes his shirt off, people would probably giggle. He's not going to scare you or possibly have girls saying, man, that is one sexy dude. He's a true fighter. He's a guy who's looking for performance-based results, not body-based results. So you can throw out, and he's not in bad shape. It's just he doesn't have that nice bodybuilder physique. He doesn't have the good traps. He doesn't have the good buys. His chest is kind of all over the place. Don't even get started with the abs. He's just not. He's not a body guy. So he fought Tor Hammer famously on the Brandon Rios Manny Pacquiao. I say these pay-per-views backwards, but it's really Manny Pacquiao versus Brandon Rios. It doesn't matter. In Macau, China. Fought on the undercard. Tor Hammer was winning the fight like 3-zip, maybe 2-1. Tor Hammer quits in the corner. Andy Ruiz looked awful in the fight. And then there's like a myth that Top Rank said Andy Ruiz is off television. Enter when I get to see him. I start going down to Fresno shows that Rick Marigian helped put on with Jose Ramirez, and Andy Ruiz is on a lot of these fights. And I got to know Andy Ruiz pretty well because, not personally, but seeing his fighting style, because he's very up and down. So he'll have a performance where you're like, this guy is amazing. Second round knockout. Next time, very slow 8-round decision. Looks very beatable, very mortal, very sluggish, very plodding. The performances were up and down. And I feel like that could just be what happens to maybe a good fighter when they feel like they're fighting in obscurity. When they feel like they're a world-class guy, but they're fighting on lower levels. Now, when he fought Joseph Parker, I felt he beat Joseph Parker. And a lot of people feel that way, I feel. He had fast hands. See, Joseph Parker, when he fought Anthony Joshua, what gave Joshua problems was Joe Parker's hand speed. Joe Parker had about a 6 or a 7-inch reach disadvantage, but he was beating Joshua to the punch. If you've got the reach advantage, you should be first and be last. Joshua was having trouble being first because of the head movement and Parker keeping his hand out and he just flick it over. He'd throw his little jab out quick and then he'd pivot, and Joshua was kind of stiff and robotic at times, and he can't really deal with a good active jab that's consistently coming at him. And I know I've heard some people commentate saying Joshua could have stopped Parker. That's baloney. He maybe in your mind you believe that, but that's Joshua when he's fighting lower tier opposition. Joe Parker's a world-class guy who has world-class tricks to know how to offset people. Joshua was trying his very best against a world caliber opponent and he won the fight, but he had a lot of trouble winning that fight. Now, the Joe Parker fight for Anthony Joshua will either be the make or break. In my opinion, it will be the make moment that will push him over the edge for Andy Ruiz. Because Andy Ruiz has a lot of the same skills as Joseph Parker. And you could either say Andy Ruiz is better than Joe Parker, the same, or a little worse. But it's all very, very close. One thing's for sure is mathematically, he has 2 inches less of a reach than Joe Parker, which means he's coming in at about an 8 or maybe a 10-inch reach disadvantage. I know he's given up 4 inches in terms of height. In terms of just a natural body size, he's definitely a smaller man in that regard. What we're really looking at with Andy Ruiz is the ability to slip punches and to shoot shots. So when if Anthony Joshua gets greedy, and we heard about this in Teddy Atlas's podcast this week, we listened to my man Julian J. Rock Williams, and he talked about in the Charlo fight, he got greedy because Charlo was so easy to hit. He looked for some shots when he should have been methodical. This fight for Anthony Joshua is a fight about don't be greedy, because Andy Ruiz is almost like the tax collector. He's a guy that if you're greedy, he can make you have to pay more than you can possibly be able to pay at that moment. And what I mean by that is if Joshua looks to knock him out and it's the inopportune time, this is one of the first guys Joshua's fought that has head movement, that can slip a punch and throw a punch back at him. And these punches are going to come extremely fast. And this is another guy, Ruiz, who's entering the ring to win. So he's not coming in afraid of Anthony Joshua. And on top of that, this is a fight that I consider a trap fight. This is a guy who the media, especially I believe the UK media, who are probably not nearly as familiar with Andy Ruiz, they're going to look at him and kind of giggle. They're going to look at this guy and make fun of his body type and not really respect it. So the expectation leading into this bout is you need to knock this guy out. But we're not even sure if Joshua's capable of knocking him out. So it's a fight that's almost designed to make him look bad. Unless Joshua is that special fighter everyone tells me he is, which I'm not convinced he is, then he will do something special in this fight. And we will have to, if he stops Andy Ruiz, that's a statement. That's a special, special statement. But if he goes all 12, we got to start pumping our brakes and start thinking maybe this guy's number 3 in the division behind Fury and then Wilder, because it's not that Ruiz is bad, but it's just at a certain point you got to elevate yourself. You've got to be the world-class guy. Andy Ruiz is a world-class guy, and he's a guy that's capable of winning this fight, but up until this point, he has not been fighting on these stages. If you truly are a once-in-a-generation, modern-day best heavyweight, you have to separate yourself from the guy that's been fighting on Indian casinos and been like the best-kept secret of the underground, because you're supposed to be the once-in-a-generation talent. If this guy that was the hidden gem really tests you, despite how good he is, he was still relegated to smaller shows because of some form of a not belief in him. If you struggle with him, that's an indictment on you based off of the hype that's been placed around you. So going into this fight, this is going to be my biggest evaluation for Anthony Joshua going in. I think Andy Ruiz's ability to slip punches, throw punches, and also his ability to know how to preserve himself in moments in this fight, along with his hand speed, are going to give Joshua problems. I do foresee Joshua winning this fight, but I think this is going to be a fight where Anthony Joshua doesn't look his greatest. And I think this is going to be a fight where people throw around my least favorite word, where they say someone got exposed. And I don't like using the word exposed, because I just say we saw a deficit that they had, an inability that they can go back and work on, because I don't really view exposure, because I think exposure can be changed camp to camp. I think people that are smart can look at that, and people that are silly will look at one fight for years and years and years when they might be looking at the wrong thing. So that's my take on this fight. As always, if you enjoy my content, hit the subscribe button. If you want to join the conversation, leave a comment, share it, like it, hit the Patreon button. Or not the Patreon button, that would be a hell of a button. Hit the Patreon button, patreon.com, Lukie. Give me a little bit of money, I'll make better stuff.